Welcome, man.
Hey, man.
How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
You watched the game this morning, right?
You mean
Tyson,
the fight?
Yeah.
I did.
The fight, yeah. Okay.
I did, despite Netflix messing up badly with the stream.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize for not having all the numbers, all the people tuning in. But I can tell you about my morning. It's Saturday today, and I woke up at 6. My alarm clock went off at 6. So
For the fight.
For the fight, yeah. There was an undercard, like with most boxing matches. So it started, I think, in Dutch time, Amsterdam time. It was something like 2 a.m. And then around 6 a.m., the fight was supposed to start. So I was on time, but that was not the problem. So I woke up, alarm clock went off. We had some red wine, me and my girlfriend. Slept a little bit later.
Okay.
And my phone fell on the ground. Alarm kept ringing. I woke her up, like she was solidly awake.
Nice.
And so it started with a fight, actually, getting out of bed. So made some coffee, put on some sweatpants and a hoodie, and just hopped on the couch and turned on Netflix. And I was already fearing it, but it happened. It started buffering, and it didn't load at all.
Too many people watching.
Too many people tuning in. It was crazy. I'm not sure if Netflix...
You could have expected it. That's a big fight, right?
Especially for such a big company with such a big infrastructure. I saw the Rumble CEO roasting them all morning on X.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, I'm not sure if Netflix ever did a live streaming event before.
I don't know.
Do you know?
No.
I think it's cool that a streaming platform does that. But a lot of people were worried that this would happen, and it's exactly what happened. So.
Yeah.
It started opening it on my phone, same result, got a sort of an error message that something was wrong with my internet connection, which I know that wasn't the case. And then at some point, finally, it switched on, but very low resolution image. I'm like, shit, I'm not gonna watch this live. So I guess I did the sensible thing and just waited and let it buffer, and then went to the live stream and just rewinded to see the ring walks.
Okay. Question is, because everyone was hoping for Tyson to win, I think.
Yeah.
But did he win?
He did not.
Okay.
So for the people that haven't really been following this, it was listed as a professional fight for the Texas Boxing Association. 14-ounce gloves, which is quite a bit heavier than the normal 10-ounce gloves or sometimes 8-ounce gloves that heavyweights use. Mm-hmm. Mike Tyson is 58 years old. Jake Paul is 27 years old. I watched because I'm a huge Tyson stan, especially his prime years. Middle of the 80s. I think he's still the best heavyweight to ever live, but he's old. I saw him in training and it looked actually really good, but what people are not talking about is that he clearly had a knee injury. He has been working out with a knee brace, very short clips, so just individual combinations, no flow on the pad work or something, no full rounds of sparring that we have seen. And in those little clips on the pads for the last couple of weeks, you could see that he had no balance in his legs. So he is converted southpaw, so his orthodox stance, and his back leg had a knee brace, and clearly something wrong there. If your knee is messed up, forget it. No, it looked pretty terrible. Okay. He still had good defensive head movement, a very elusive head movement. He's known for that. So that was cool to see as a blast from the past, a little bit of nostalgia. No, man, it was not good, and it was just basically a show. Jake Paul held back, definitely didn't try to knock him out, and paid homage at the end. So yeah, all the people from our generation who followed boxing and who love old school boxing were hoping for something special. But for me, it was very clear that he literally had a knee injury, and that he just wanted to cash the $20 million, and good for Mike. But I guess I'll just revert to watching YouTube clips of him knocking people out again. So that was my morning.
Okay. Well, I think I'll see it online, the clips.
I'm just curious about the backlash that Netflix will get from this, because, clearly a lot of people couldn't have the full live experience.
So I don't ever watch that anymore, man. Yeah, I still got a subscription, I think, but I can't remember the last time I watched it. So I have no clue about the numbers, but isn't it already a bit on decline?
Yeah, because the landscape is much more competitive now.
Yeah.
Because you have HBO, you have Disney Plus, you have some local options here in the Netherlands. You have Videoland.
Yeah.
So no, what I do is whenever I want to watch a show on Netflix, for example, if my girlfriend and I want to
go to Pirate Bay and
I go to Pirate Bay. I open BitTorrent and I'll start. That was such a magical time, man.
You'll probably get police on the door.
That's what they say, but I don't know. No, so I just switch it on for 1 month and then just cancel it immediately so I can watch a show. Okay. We're actually watching Lost again.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
actually classic, man.
That's beautiful.
I
man.
love that series.
I love it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love it. When did you watch it?
When it came out, but then I watched it. I remember that I watched everything up until the last episode. I don't know why, but so I don't know. Never watched the last episode.
There was a lot of criticism back then on the ending of Lost.
Maybe because it was already out, and I saw indeed a lot of people complaining about it. I think the same thing happens with people that are watching Game of Thrones, right? I mean, if you did not watch it while everything was coming out, you probably heard like the last seasons were like absolute crap.
Yeah.
So maybe Megan doesn't want to, my wife doesn't want to watch it. Yeah, mainly because it's just the end is just like completely destroyed.
They
So,
lost the
yeah,
plot.
they don't even want to start it anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, that was what they said about Lost, and I watched it back in 2010 or 11 or something. Yeah, I can remember the end, that they lost the plot. But now...
It was cool. They free-winged it, right? The whole production was like basically freestyle per season, I think.
You think so?
I think that was how they did it, yeah.
Now you're pulling me into a rabbit hole. I wanna, like a nerd, want to look at all of that.
Yeah.
But watching it now, I knew it was like it was a crazy high, because the world didn't really know the type of storytelling and production.
Yes, everything was movies before that.
Oh man, yeah. And so watching it now, I must say it still holds up well.
Yeah.
But there are things that I remember to be far more impactful than they are now. And also the storyline is progressing slower than I can remember. But it's just funny to see, because we are used to a different, more fast-paced way of storytelling now.
Yeah.
I think. But I really enjoyed it. It's really a lot of nostalgia. The only thing that happened is that the characters, when I watched it back in 2010, they looked very old, like very senior to me, and now they look like my peers again. So that's yeah.
Except for Locke. What's
Locke?
his name? Locke.
Except for Locke. That's right. Except for Locke. Locke is still exactly the same. But now that I'm into it, like in the second season, they are back to what they were again. That's the funny thing about it. The beautiful girls are still beautiful. Kate and Claire and Shannon. And Sawyer is still the same. Jack is still the same. Hurley is still the same. The Dharma Initiative concept is so cool. It's such a cool way of storytelling with the sort of the early synthesizer 80s music for those creepy little orientation videos and all of that. I'm loving it.
Yeah, I love it as well.
Yeah. Who was your favorite character back then?
I think I have to say Sawyer, man. I like that guy.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
He's great. A little bit over the top, maybe.
Yeah,
but
maybe it was a decade ago, I think, that I watched that. But I can remember that I really liked Sawyer.
Yeah, Sawyer is cool.
Yeah.
Sawyer is cool. So maybe you're gonna watch it, rewatch it again this winter.
Who knows? I'm very selective with what I'm watching lately, because it's just having a kid and like business being super busy.
Me too.
You're just like stealing productive time.
It is.
It sounds a bit cringe, but I rather just chill out on the couch, read a book, listen to some music. It's like some active relaxing.
I fully agree. I'm also selective with it. It's just I'm a binger.
Yeah.
So whenever I have something, even if it's once or twice a year, I just binge through the seasons.
But if it's once or twice a year, it's nice.
Beautiful.
It's because it is nice watching a good show. And somewhere I read, if you just watch these things that are like mediocre storytelling, just like nice to just watch, it's basically just your brain on standby. But then when you watch a story like Lost, something like
it's enchantment. It's just a good piece of storytelling, whether it's a book or a movie or a series. It's just great.
Yeah, the days after watching it or reading it, you basically perceive the world in a different way.
Yes, I think that is also the power of storytelling, right? It opens new windows. Yeah, no, I love it. It's great, and there was some great series over the past decade. We have been quite lucky, to be honest, our generation. We had some great storytelling. What do you think of Breaking Bad?
Dude, yeah, I rewatched that, I think, 2 times.
Oh, yeah?
That's the thing I binge, man. It's so good.
It's so good, and that for me was one of the few shows that really held up until the end. Like it even got maybe slightly better with each season, and you rarely ever see that. There's always some sort of decline.
Yeah. What about Mr. Robot?
Mixed feelings about it. I liked it. I liked some parts of it, especially with the Tyrell Wellick character and his very beautiful but very creepy wife.
Yeah.
I never finished that series actually, but I guess there were some.
It gets weird, man, but I liked it a lot.
It's great. Peaky Blinders, then of course.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Anyway, yeah, I just want to forget
Long
about...
small talk. Long small talk.
Long
yeah.
small talk,
Yeah.
but long story short, I just want to forget about the whole Tyson Paul thing. I even skipped sparring for it, like going to the gym and spar, which I always do on Saturday. So yeah, that's a bit of a bummer, but I'm glad it's over, I guess. The hype was fun.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you have on your mind? How was your week?
Week was super busy, man. Lots of stuff that's not that interesting to discuss. But I saw that you had a couple of interesting things to talk about. First thing was the pocket guide of essential YC advice.
Right, so I'm a fan of lists because in the whirlwind, that is my mind sometimes. I'm just a fan of bullets, and it gives me something clear to hold on to and some structure in the chaos. Now, I just came across this. Greg Eisenberg posted this, the pocket guide of essential Y Combinator advice. And you have plenty of those lists where you have a pocket book of bullets with startup advice, entrepreneurial advice, life advice, business advice, financial advice. But I really like this list. For those who don't know what Y Combinator is, it's a startup accelerator from the US. It's like the most renowned one. So they provide basically seed funding, mentorship, a super valuable network, and you have like companies like from Airbnb to Notion to what else do we have? Let me see. Yeah, from Dropbox, Airbnb, Stripe, Reddit, Coinbase, DoorDash, Zapier. Yeah, just crazy.
I think it was like a few weeks ago where I read the amount of profit generated in YC per employee. It's staggering. I can't come up with the actual number, but it was like, holy fuck, that's insane.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. And of course, we know that Sam Altman, who's the CEO of OpenAI, he was the CEO of YC for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Before this, yeah. So
but get the list.
Sure.
What's on it?
Yeah, there's 19 or 20 bullets on there. I just want to throw some out there and see how you respond to that, what your thoughts are on it. I'm just going to cherry pick here, so bear with me. Well, I think one we can rally behind, the both of us, is launch now. So basically stop waiting, just start. I say we can rally behind it, but isn't that also something that we sometimes need to overcome?
Dude, I've been doing that wrong for many times.
Yeah, me too.
Like whether it is like building a product like far beyond MVP level before you launch it, or like needing to have a website that presents the product, like, and everything needs to be pixel perfect. It's in my nature to do things that way. So it's hard to come up with something a bit crappy, but something that works.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's true. Like you need to get that thing out there ASAP. And I think when everything is perfect when you launch it, then you waited far too long to launch it.
Yeah.
I repeat that, I think, on a weekly basis. Also the people we work with, if you don't guide them too well, like they're going to make the same mistake. And everyone wants to build things with some picture that they have in their mind, and it needs to be that thing in their mind from the get-go. And I'm like, that's not the way to go, because you're burning money, you're burning time, and eventually 9 out of 10 times turns out that it needs to be something different.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can just basically start doing it and iterate along the way, and it's also the fear of something not working, of breaking down, right? It's very counterintuitive, but the problem is not doing it. Inaction is the true evil, is what a friend of mine likes to say. This also ties back into the Decel mindset that, of course, I was monologuing about a little bit in one of the previous episodes. But the truth is that like 99.9% of people are to some degree infected with the Decel mind virus. Right? I'm the first one to admit that. For me, it's also a constant fight to jump into it and get it going and just build it, launch it, write it, instead of overthinking it and thinking, oh, what if it's not good, or what if it's not working? Then I've wasted all this time. It's such a weird...
What will everyone think of me when I fail?
Yeah, exactly. It's such a weird mind bleep that is very hard to overcome. So yeah, that is of course the one we support, but are also actively working on to actually walk the walk.
Yes.
And I must say that ever since you and me started really brainstorming about productized services, productized agencies, like a number of years ago, that is a good thing to hold on to for me. That is a sort of a concept that puts it in a framework. I can now, in a couple of hours, I can now craft an entire new service offering, from customer-facing proposition to the high level contents of it, so what is included in it, and also the high level operation execution of it, and the resources I need and the price point. So that is was a freeing experience to think in the productized services model. And it also, I don't know, for me, it lowers the barrier of launching something, even presenting something internally. If I see something now, I can turn it around very quickly into one pager and just discuss it with the people around me and make up a plan. So I'm improving, but I'm still not completely free from it.
Yeah, I think there's only a few that are completely free from it, because it's, for many, it's just counterintuitive. For most,
Yeah.
I see the same thing. But yeah, I think the whole build to sell framework, it comes in very convenient, basically because it gives you an answer on a lot of things you should not do, and I think that's a great help.
Yes, that cleans that clears the path a little bit. But what do you do personally to mitigate or remedy this barrier that you, or this wall that you walk into when you just want to launch something but you're holding yourself back?
Yeah, I like to turn things around on myself. So I try to put things in a nice one-pager, and just I try to look at that like I'm advising you or someone else. Because I can always, most cases I can give advice that way, but when it comes to my own stuff, I often do it wrong if I don't reflect properly. So I try to just treat it as an idea of anyone else, and that has been a great help.
Yeah. All right. Okay. We just keep trying and keep doing.
Yeah.
Okay, cherry picking again. This is an interesting one. Do things that don't scale. So manual effort is fine early on. For us, I think we're trying to push ourselves into so we really need to do things that can be standardized, automated, and are scalable. And I noticed this at NOCO as well, doing the legwork is something that you sometimes just have to do. It ties a bit into the distribution founder thing, right? Like where you have to do a lot of things yourself in order to get them right and go to a first version that you have it, and then you can try to standardize and scale.
Yeah.
It's, for me, it's also a tricky balance because you also get caught in like a lot of fragmentation in terms of tasks. And how do you see that?
I see it with a SaaS product that we built for regulatory change management within banks, financial service companies. What I see in the beginning of the product, when we try to sell it, you try to sell it as if it's already a product that has a certain skill, but basically withholding you from saying yes to certain things that prospects are asking for. Let's say they want to implement our product, but they want some implementation management or like some consulting around it. I'm like, just go for it, because you can basically say no because we want to be a software business, which I think is, we want to be that, yes, but at the same time, you also want to find out like what are the things that they are walking into when they are implementing the product. Just take them by the hand, do it for them. And yes, it doesn't scale, but I do think it will put you on a path where you find out about the nitty gritty, and you will find things that you can leverage in like onboarding the next client. Does it scale? No, but is it valuable? 100%.
I agree. I have a similar example at NOCO because I'm piloting a new offering, which is related to basically the brand purpose of a B2B SaaS and tech startup, and also the product messaging framework. So messaging house for your product offering that you will build all your future communication on. And I crafted this as a very compact service, fully remote, a lot of templating in terms of forms, process, presentation deck, etc. But we have a very cool customer that we're piloting it with now. They're also like perfect for this because they are very forward-thinking, visionary thinkers. So it's great to brainstorm with them about their brand purpose, etc. Dive into a value proposition canvas with them. And it's a super inefficient process right now for me. And
you have to do it yourself probably.
I have to do it myself, but I see it as the only way. I also did a physical session with them because they are in the Netherlands, so that helps. It was super inefficient. I had to tweak all the forms, all the templates, but I'm learning a ton. I'm learning a ton from it, and I'm probably going to do this a couple of more times with different customers, doing it myself, keeping it almost intentionally inefficient because I want to take in as much information and insights as I can personally.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I try to document it and structure everything that I learn from that to ultimately turn it into a super streamlined, very compact, quick turnaround, productized offering. But I don't think there's any other way than to do it very inefficiently and non-scalable right now, because I would have never learned the things I am learning. So yeah, doing the legwork is, I think it's more of a matter of choosing the right legwork, because you get easily drawn into sort of a super fragmented, scattered list of tasks that sort of pull you out of your focus all the time. But I think if you determine that, okay, for this service or for this pilot, it's actually very valuable to do it super inefficiently. I think if you can make a differentiation there where you see, okay, this is worth my time, then I think you're good. Not easy, to be honest.
No, but I mean, it's similar to what we discussed last week, right? It's just like a certain period of very intense work, figuring things out, which eventually can be turned into a consistent process.
Yep.
More standardized, more productized, just a very clear system where you can pull your customers through.
I agree, and it's also very important to distinguish that you can be a productized agency, but if your productized offerings are not up to standard yet, you haven't found like that perfect product market fit in terms of value and efficiency and whatever, and there's no point in sticking to standardized processes just for the sake of it. You won't sell them because there's not enough value in there. So yeah, you just have to iterate until a certain point where you say, this is a good fit.
Yeah,
I can go on with this for 6 to 12 months.
Yeah,
and actually sell this and make plenty of volume.
So have you thought about like how distribution for this? Like how let's say it succeeds with this first pilot customer. Have you thought about like how you're going to distribute this service?
Yeah, good question. I think early on it's quite easy to do this in intro calls, because you have plenty of lead inflow for our 0 to 1 website sprint.
With no-co?
Yes, with no-co. So that's also how I validated or pre-validated it, because there's thanks man. Let's just stay hydrated.
Before drink it all.
Yeah. I already pre-validated it simply by talking to website customers. But I always like to ask more strategic questions. I like to talk about their brand purpose, about their strategic marketing objectives, about their vision, about their content strategy, etc. So I always go a little bit more high over, because I want to understand before we actually focus or zoom in on their website. And this comes up all the time. Like, they don't really have a very clearly defined brand purpose yet. They don't really have a good product messaging framework. They are sometimes also on the fence if they want a small visual update for the most important things, like the logo, color scheme, font, like the high impact visual stuff that you can update.
Yeah.
So this need is very palpable. So I'm just gonna do this stealth mode in sales calls, because it's a super easy upsell, but also something that adds extra value to them, and also a good way to go into the 0 to 1 website sprint, because we have a more directional way of designing and working. So
I like it. And I think it's also very suitable for automation, right? If you don't have a clear idea about what your proposition, your brand message is, like how are you even going to like automate parts of content creation? But once you got that framework like very clear, you can actually think about those things. Absolutely,
and it's always the chicken or the egg thing. So I rarely come across a brand that is fully happy with where they are. It's like overwhelmingly...
Yeah, from like seed stage to unicorns.
Yeah, it hasn't really been a focus, and they're right for it not to be a focus, because they focused on product and finding a product market fit. So it's actually perfect timing in most cases for us to add some value there. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. So we're just gonna stealth launch it just in our sales calls, but I can also see it as a standalone service. Then again, no-co wants to be known for our specialty, which is very design focused, high converting, no-code, low-code websites for B2B SaaS and tech startups. And it's also very important not to get that twisted. So it shouldn't be a cluttered proposition there.
Yeah, that's the whole reason why we actually separated Eli 5 and no-co from each other. So
and maybe agencies in the future, that's something to be considered.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, but we move back to the list. I actually enjoy it already, because there's just some great talking points in there. Yeah, this is a fun one. So all startups are broken. I think that the original item in the list is at some point all startups are badly or severely broken, and that's okay. Chaos is normal. Keep moving.
I got some less. I don't have that much that comes to mind with that, but I do see that every time when you think you got it figured out, you head into a new phase, and you're like, damn, okay, here we go again. Like, you'll probably go through cycles of that, which are never ending until you reach like some level of maturity.
Yeah, and skill probably. Yeah. I hear that. I hear you say that sometimes, and myself as well. Okay, if we just push through this period, if we just do this, if we just push through these months, and then we have everything under control, and then it's smooth sailing. To an extent, that's actually true. That ties into the bursts of high intensity versus the consistency.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it's just, I think, better just to embrace the suffering and the chaos.
Yeah.
But okay.
What comes to mind for you when you read that?
What comes to mind is that it's okay, basically. It's, for me, the sort of the solution to this is just to embrace the chaos a little bit more and to go into that, to step into that chaos every day with a feeling of, I guess, gratitude. Like, this is what it is. It's okay. You've created this chaos yourself. Nobody forced you to do this. Nobody forced you to start a company or to lead a company. It's okay. It's your chaos, and it's yours to shape and mold and channel. And so it's a little bit more of a relaxed mindset and just bathe in it. Just step in like it's a warm bath and just chip away. Very hard to explain, but definitely not get too stressed by it, which is hard because I'm also a high energy person. I can get lost in the chaos as well.
Yeah,
definitely.
But I agree. I mean, I like the problem solving, and I think when everything is smooth sailing, I get anxious, man.
Anxious, and we would get bored and anxious anyway. So let's just embrace the suffering.
Okay, next.
Yeah, there are some that have some overlap. So there's something like focus on product, not growth. So great products drive growth. If you're talking about productized services, we already mentioned, just make sure that you have a good V1 of your productized service offering and add value there, and then the growth will come. Don't scale too early, so nail the product market fit first. Kind of overlaps with the previous one.
Avoid long corporate deals, I see here.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to this one. Decade of frustration.
I think you can see that in service and in product. I've dealt with corporate venture projects that went from first conversation to working together within a week. I was amazed with this because this was for like a large global bank. That at all. And I think it also set the tone for the collaboration that followed after because everything went quick. But we had this guy, Nick, running the project and on the bank side. And he was doing all the politics. He was making sure that the project was funded. And he was very good at deploying the money. So everything went very quick after that, man. And we've led that project all the way from incubation all the way to exit. So that's a example of how it can be. But at the same time, with our SaaS product, we've also been in conversations with large consulting firms that everyone wants to work with. Like, why? Because they have a big name. But 20 conversations in, and they are still not delivering a customer. So I think one hack to this, which I heard from someone around the company, is basically just heading into those conversations. Okay, you're interested in a partnership? Yes, okay. Can you bring in a customer from the get-go? And I think if the answer is no, then just don't pursue it. Don't continue with those conversations.
Yeah, so let go of the fear.
Because you're wasting your time, man.
Yeah, let go of the fear of losing that prospect.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is very understandable when you desperately need the revenue in the early stage. But yeah, no, I agree. There's In one of the previous episodes, I mentioned that a lack of throughput, for example, is just devastating for team morale. And that was more on the creative and production side of things.
Yeah, but for this as well, when you got like a SaaS product running and you don't have customers, it's just like depressing, man.
Yeah, it's very connected to it.
And then I think the product that we are talking about right now, the product for banks actually, is you're already head into like long sales cycles with these kind of companies. If you then also have a bunch of like very large entities in your pipeline that constantly want to talk but they're not buying, it's just wasting so many other opportunities from like smaller fintech companies or like smaller crypto companies that can actually decide way faster. Are they going to pay the same for the product? No, definitely not. But it does keep the team like enthusiastic. You know?
Yes, and it keeps the cash flowing, and it allows you to do more volume as well to negate maybe losing out or missing out on that big enterprise prospect. Yeah, and it's just from a personal note. I've worked for quite a number of industrial corporates, and some aspects I loved, but certainly the long sales cycles and the bureaucracy, the politics, and how long it's sometimes to get something moving and waiting, and it's also affecting your planning. Because they, for example, they indicate that they want to start next month, and then just as easy, like some other manager or executive or C-level person says, no, we have to postpone this for 2 quarters because that's just the way it is. And you're just constantly being kept, I don't know, it's just not fun, basically. And I agree, so going back to the list, avoid long corporate deals. Yeah, big partnerships waste time. Yeah, I just agree with that. It's the energy is not great for the energy. You're missing out on other opportunities, and also you're giving away the control over your own destiny in some way. You just keep hoping for that big one to fall, and then everything is great. Yeah. But especially for a product that you've built to be very lean, whether it's a SaaS product or it's a productized service, quickness being lean.
It's hard to force your way into luck with that approach.
Exactly. That's a great statement. I agree with that. Okay, let's see what's on the list. Skip unnecessary conferences. way ahead of you.
Yeah, you don't have to tell me that, man.
Yeah, I don't like going to conferences. You've been to a few because that's...
Yeah, I got invited to a couple here in the Netherlands, and I've been to 2 recently just because I got asked by like people closer to me. I was like, okay, I got some time, I'll come with you, and I'm just there. I'm like, what am I doing here, man? And I think there's...
How many business cards did you take home?
None. No. I mean... It's also like you have to hunt for talking to the people that you can actually like vibe with, or that where there's some synergy. Like I'm not. First of all, I'm not that comfortable in like just hunting down people to talk to. I'm way more comfortable here, like talking to you and broadcasting a message, and engaging with people that feel like it resonates with them.
Yes.
And at conferences, I don't know. I feel like I could leverage my time in a way better way.
I have the same thing. I'm not built for those conferences. You do have people who thrive in that kind of environment, who just live that. And very important to know, that also doesn't cost them a significant amount of energy.
Yeah, but I got friends, man, who need to talk to other people. Gives them energy.
Yeah, and it's great for them.
When you send me to that conference, it's costing me energy.
Yeah,
like
me too.
Big social events cost me energy.
I'm exhausted after one. Yeah. I agree. We're just built different, but some do thrive in it, and good for them. We'll just do the podcast. So one problem at a time. Avoid spreading yourself too thin.
Yes, I've been doing that wrong a lot, and I think this also comes down to basically plan your burst of intensity, right? Don't try to juggle too many balls at the same time. I think if you can turn it a little bit more into silos, define the problems that you're working on, and make sure that you don't work on too many at the same time. Plan a little bit around like all the consistent stuff that you need to do, that you can thrive. But I've been in situations where I got caught up in too many things that I started, whether it is stuff within a company or like basically starting a new company. And then at one time, a CEO left for a company that we basically set up together with my co-founder Kishan, and then all hell broke loose. Because that happened in that business, because things were not that stable yet in that business. And then things happened, things broke within Eli 5, and then all of a sudden you're like 7 days a week, you're just dealing with all the problems. And I think one thing I've learned the hard way was just like, you need to make sure that you fix things to a certain level that you can actually delegate it properly. And yeah, learned that the hard way, but now we're here, you're doing it in a very good way, where we've learned our lesson as well.
Let's hope so. Yeah, no, but definitely a progress there. Yeah, definitely a lot of learnings there. One problem at a time. I always found it challenging to compartmentalize things. So you have to be able to, when something just breaks down entirely in one segment or element of your business, then you have to just let that go for a couple of hours or for a day and focus on something else that has a priority, and just focus on that with positive energy. And I've seen people do that. Some older entrepreneurs that I know, like in completely different industries. There's one in particular, kind of a sort of a mentor figure for me. And he was so good at compartmentalizing, because he had like periods where he was under very crushing problems and challenges that were just absolutely crushing, potentially terminal events. And he could just sink his teeth into those for a full week or weeks in a row. And then at the same time, when I met him like for a drink at night or something, he could completely switch that off and just talk about being very invested, for example, in things I had going on, or just personal conversations. Yeah. And I always admire that a lot. I try to learn from it a little bit. Definitely. Yeah.
He 100% sure went through the pain to get there.
A lot of pain. A lot of pain. Yeah, so that might also help. But I do feel that this particular person naturally is good at that.
Okay.
Yeah, very strong character. But okay, so let's see if we have one more. Yes, fire bad customers. How do you feel about that? What is a healthy churn?
It's a tough one. I think definitely in the service industry, you hear it a lot, like this customer sucks, we need to get rid of it. I think what you also do very well is always asking yourself the question, what could I have done to prevent this? Because 9 out of 10 times, it's actually not the fault of the customer, but it's the fault of the company.
I agree.
Yourself. So yeah, fire bad customers, but I do think first you need to make sure that your system, your framework is like spot on, is working, is battle tested. And then if you still have customers that go through that framework or system in a way that you think, okay, what like, this is just causing problems. This is not like, we cannot serve you if you keep on doing this. And it's, if a customer doesn't pay or anything, like, of course, get rid of it. Yeah. But that's by far not the most of the reason that I hear.
No, it's usually not that reason. You're right. No, but I fully agree. And we discussed this in the last episode. I would probably personally change this in the list. It's not fire bad customers. It's what you say. So it's just, I think a healthy churn is good, but it's not so much firing them. I never in my life actually did that. It's
I've only done that because I didn't pay.
Yeah, of course, those are escalations. But it's more like, I more see it like a natural, organic process where you just end of life cycle because there's not a fit anymore for some reason, and only after you have really assessed this situation and just analyzed and concluded that, okay, no, there's no way for me to add value to that customer anymore. Yeah. So it's okay to not extend their subscription or whatever, and just a natural churn. I'm all for that. Yeah. Okay. All right. That was, it was cool to go over those lists. More lists to come.
But there's one thing that I saw, and I saw that you also have pinpointed this one. It's a tweet from a founder from Norway.
Ah, yes.
His name is Frederick Haga, CEO of June, and he had this banger of a tweet. Yeah, where do we start? We're not the biggest fans of like how Europe is doing now. And this guy is basically saying that he worked on a company in Norway for 2 years without funding. He raised funding, and then eventually he faced unrealized gains wealth tax that was like many times his annual net salary. Yeah. He left Norway now lives in, I think he does business in Switzerland, I think. And Norway actually put him on the wall of shame that is hanging at the socialist party's offices. What about that, man?
We have a recurring theme for us, the EU and its bureaucracy and the sort of the negative impact it has on innovation, entrepreneurship, hostile tax climate, regulatory pressure. We must note, or else we get called out on this, that Norway isn't actually part of the EU, ironically. But in terms of policy, and you could definitely see a lot of similarities there. Now, you mentioned this, and I saw the tweet. The wall of shame thing is crazy. That kind of has also some historic references that I just don't even want to think about.
Yeah, let's make it clear that he's hanging there because he left the country. So they got this wall of shame of all these like entrepreneurs and business owners and like,
is it like a bullying list? Is it like a list like we succeeded them in this dirty bullying these dirty capitalists out of the country, or how do I have to see this?
I don't know. It's weird.
It is weird, right?
Yeah.
So what's your takeaway on this situation? So what is your conclusion here?
That's the thing that I've been saying a lot lately. I think you can still thrive here, but it just comes with extra hurdles. If you need to take your company and move it to another country because it can thrive better there, yeah, of course, you and I can do that. We can do that. Founders can do that. But it's just why go through the hassle? And then this country misses out on quite a bit of upside of that business.
You would say so. You would say that it would be sort of a motivation for a state of a country to create a comfortable and welcoming climate for the people who actually create value, which are the entrepreneurs, the companies. What in countries like Norway and countries with very strict or heavy socialist influence on policy is that it's almost something that is unwelcome. It's a tricky one, but yeah, the wall of shame thing, I actually want to know a little bit more of that, but we'll look that up. And the gains tax thing is, let's just say it's quite understandable that Mr. what's his name, Frederick, decided to look elsewhere for his new home. And I hope he does well, and that his tax situation is a little bit more realistic and fair than it was in Norway.
Pretty sure that's the case in Switzerland.
Yeah. Shout out to Norway, because I still definitely want to visit that one time. I never visited Norway. Have you been there?
Like Scandinavia, I didn't come further than Denmark, which a lot of Scandinavians will probably consider not Scandinavia, but
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I always feel like there's a fight there going on.
Yeah, that could be maybe like...
But yeah, I would love to, man, because friends of mine have done like the camping route through Sweden and Norway, and just set up camp like next to a fjord and like...
You can actually do a quite enjoyable drive for anyone who sees the Swedish sort of crime series, The Bridge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can do the drive over this very long bridge. So you when you live in Amsterdam, you just drive to Hamburg and you spend a night there, and then you can go over that very long bridge from Denmark to Sweden, actually. And that is also what the series is about. It's about a murder right there in the middle of that bridge between Denmark and Sweden.
Yeah,
so
that's a great series as well.
Great series, I love it. Yeah, I love it. It's a great series, and definitely would love to visit. But Jesus, no, the tax climate is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Not good for innovation, not good for entrepreneurship.
It's all over Europe, right? What's happening now in the US with the Department of Government Efficiency?
How about that?
This is also quite a sensitive topic for many, I think. But what I do about it is that you saw the trend starting in Argentina. Now, I think Elon and what's his name? The other guy?
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah, Vivek, yeah. They're going to try to do this in the US, which is probably like a bit more of a difficult task than Argentina. But then I'm thinking, what could be... Someone tweeted, and you shared it with me, we need a European equivalent of Joe Rogan, which I agree with, because you don't have that many critical voices here.
How would you describe that? So what do you think a European Joe Rogan would bring to the table in terms of a platform? I
think what is good that you also saw recently with Pieter Levels, he's pointing out the flaws in Europe. And I see these flaws myself as well. For us, it's becoming less and less interesting to hire people locally, but due to a lot of regulations around employee contracts and a lot of taxation as well.
Yeah.
And of course, he's quite a big voice among us, but he doesn't have the reach that Joe Rogan has. But what I why I was mentioning this is because the first thought I had when I read that tweet and when you shared it with me was it would be nice if you had like someone that has a platform like Elon Musk, to have someone like that in Europe as well, because there's no big force here in Europe calling out what is going wrong.
No, that's absolutely true. So what you're saying is basically there's no one with a sort of the reach, with a critical mass reach that can fairly objectively talk to anyone and any person with varying opinions and analysis about very impactful topics for European society, and carry that message far enough for it to really make a difference. Yeah, no, I agree. Let's see if we get that. But for the people watching and listening, just to summarize what DOGE actually is. No, it's not the cryptocurrency DOGE, although it's a nice play on words from Elon. So it's a DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. So here in this podcast, already a recurring theme is basically a government inefficiency versus private sector agility and innovation. We talked about how bad government is at capital allocation compared to the private sector, the entrepreneurs. And we talked about the state apparatus and how bigger the state, how the more threshold on innovation and entrepreneurship and basically value creation. Elon Musk has been a big proponent of that, very outspoken about the problem of a very big over-regulated state system. And this is very much the case for the EU. You could also argue also even for the nation states, but definitely the EU bureaucracy. And also true for the US, with endless departments, endless streams of funding to highly questionable things like what happens if we give hamsters testosterone and let them fight with each other. You see all these nowadays, dude. You see all these super crazy examples now just being posted on X about things that the government.
Well, that would be a good wall of shame. Like how much money was wasted on like that meaningless projects.
Exactly, that would be a good wall of shame, and it's being created now with all the posts. Now that there has been a change in the presidency in the US, Elon started a commission, the Department of Government Efficiency, and the premise is that entrepreneurs excel at capital allocations, government don't. What are the stakes? $6.5 trillion in waste every year. This is something that they defined as that is what we need to save. And that is what we can save. And what is the move? So Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, he's also an entrepreneur. They want to have a disruption in this by massively slashing down departments and decreasing the the size of the government. So the question here is, can DOGE bring private sector efficiency to federal systems?
Probably never at the same level.
Never.
I mean, there's a lot to gain there.
Yeah. So what they basically describe it as a Manhattan Project, quote unquote, for bureaucracy.
That's a crazy name.
That's a crazy name. For those who don't know, the Manhattan Project was ran from 1939 to 1945, and it was about creating the first atomic bomb in the world. There's a movie made about it, of course, Oppenheimer. But I guess they just refer to that because it was such a concentrated, high stakes, high impact effort in a very short amount of time. You could also mention, for example, the moon landing, right? So when Kennedy kicked off that program to have a man on the moon this decade, something like that, like Operation Warp Speed.
Would have been a safer choice.
Sorry?
Would have been a safer choice to compare to.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a high stakes, high impact, high speed initiative.
What it comes down to, you can say whatever you want about it, but I think bringing more efficiency to governments is not a bad thing, in my opinion.
No, me neither. We talked about this extensively in the last episode. We both believe that, I don't think that's a super controversial topic, we both believe that a government should be as lean and facilitating and effective and fast moving as possible, because they can do more good things for the people. And so I think that's great. So a couple more things. Ambition and timeline. Deliver smaller, efficient government by July 4th, 2026. So let's bookmark that. Let's
mental.
Yeah, let's mark that into our calendars. Focus on structural reform and accountability. Innovation in static systems. Balancing efficiency with essential services. That's a good summary for what we like to see in a lean government. Critical questions. Is it even feasible to do a drastic reform in 2 years? Elon says yes. I hope he's right, but we'll see. We're going to have a full market in our calendars. Is this a real change? And this is actually a very legitimate question. Is this a real change, or is this a branding performance?
Well, with the track record of the guy, it will probably be some real change. Yeah, I find it hard to say. There's a lot of branding around this, of course, as well. But I think the intention is true.
Yeah, at least Musk has a track record of getting things done in a sort of exponential, crazy way.
Yeah, but he also has a track record of hyping things up and not
Absolutely.
delivering. So I get the question.
Yeah, or delivering later.
Yeah.
Because he always delivers on the big things. But yeah, definitely the timelines can be very unrealistic. But he actually does that intentionally, is what he once told.
Get things moving.
If we translate that to the EU and the sort of the entrepreneurial innovation climate, I actually pulled up some talking points from Pieter Levels. Levels IO, his X-handle, I think. So listing the challenges for entrepreneurs in Europe: bureaucracy, high cost and complexity in starting and maintaining a business, excessive regulation, overwhelming rules like GDPR, cookie laws, AI regulations, upcoming e-privacy make it tough for startups.
Yeah, regarding that one, wasn't it the case that due to one of the efforts of Thierry Breton, Google Maps is now disconnected from Google? Like, you cannot click on a Google Maps link anymore when you search for a location on Google.
I didn't actually know that.
No? Okay, yeah.
You're right, I've noticed it.
Yeah.
I noticed I couldn't find the maps results.
Yeah, you cannot click on the map anymore.
I had no idea,
That's
dude.
insane, man. But that's the kind of stuff that's probably has been costing like a lot of euros. Like,
Astronomical amounts of money.
Yeah.
This is one you already mentioned, strict labor laws. So it's risky hiring due to strict firing rules and long-term financial obligations if an employee falls sick. We've both experienced this, of course. In our businesses. Yeah, true. I do find it important that there's a healthy balance between employee rights and a little bit of a safety net.
Yes.
But I think the balance tipped over to
I mean, I'm all for like making sure that larger companies cannot screw over their people. You know, like I'm all for that. But
100% with
at
you.
the same time, I've been in like multiple situations where this has really backfired on my company.
Yeah.
And I think the result is this combined with the high taxation you pay over gross salaries here in the Netherlands. The result is that we just work way more with people all over the world. And what I like working with people all over the world, I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also feel like, I know that I can also get this talent probably here in the same city. And I feel like this policy from the government is backfiring on its own citizens. It's probably not the case in many industries where, I don't know, where you really need to do like physical work or whatever, and that's very tied to a location.
Yeah.
But yeah, with more and more work being done online, and more teams can actually work remote and distributed, I think you're just like, you're screwing over your own citizens.
Yeah. I think you are, and then that asks the question: what are the incentives for this? It does. What I always miss with these overly regulated bureaucratic systems is that I miss the clear, sort of virtuous incentives of actually doing something or creating the best climate for your own citizens. Yeah. It's a very interesting thing.
I think there's just many types of companies or many phases of companies are overlooked, and because I don't mind some of the taxation over gross salaries. But it would already be a completely different case if you'd say first 20 employees are like basically you don't have to pay any labor tax over their gross salaries.
Go ahead, create value, and then when you scale and when you have the fat on the bones, then
you can start paying a little bit of tax on top of it.
That would at least, no matter how you think about taxing and whatever, that would at least
it's a different message.
It would also show some sense, something that is actually thought out with the end goal of creating as much value within a society as possible.
Yes.
Moving on with that list from Pieter Levels, so that was the strict labor laws. There's some more on there, the high taxes we discussed. Yeah, so big businesses versus startups, that's an important one, because that's basically what you were talking about as well. Favorable conditions for established companies like ASML, regulations that benefit large firms, keeping market barriers high, lack of healthy competition due to few startups reaching significant scale. And this is, of course, true. I mentioned this example before. I think in the States you have 3 of the biggest companies are all founded after 2004. Within the EU, a couple of the biggest companies are founded in the 50s or something.
Yeah.
And that is...
You can basically relate to the entire example you gave with the YC portfolio.
Yeah.
You don't see that stuff happening in Europe.
No, it's fairly strange. But then, if we move on to that tweet from, what's his name? Ole? I'm looking for those bullets that you wrote. Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay, so just some spicy stuff here. So one of the things you should realize is that the GDP in the US and the EU were almost equal, I think, in 2008.
Yes.
Great. Makes sense. Same number of people, give or take.
Yeah, but I can also remember that. I can remember when the financial crisis hit, was it 2007, 2008? I can remember that US and EU were very much on par.
That's the message, was always the message, right? That was also the premise. Yeah, we need to form the EU so we can compete with the US economy. But now the US is leading the way with 25.5 trillion versus Europe 16.6 trillion GDP. A lot of anti-innovation mindset, lots of smart people here are moving out, which will become a problem more and more. Europe chooses security over growth, while America chooses innovation over regulations. To me, this is much more a mindset thing than an actual policy thing, to be honest.
Yeah, but do you feel that this is shared, like, around you? Because I don't feel that at all.
What do you feel?
Well, I feel that we've got a lot of entrepreneurial people.
Yeah.
Like here in this city, around me, like...
The entire success and wealth over the centuries, over the ages, comes from an inherently entrepreneurial, risk-taking, exploratory spirit. With all the good things and some of the bad things, of course, but that is what Europe is to me. And I'm 100% sure that it's still very much within European cultures and societies.
Yeah.
But something is putting a lot of threshold on it. And sometimes...
Oh, sorry.
No, sorry, man. But sometimes you don't just have to look further than the obvious things, like that are being pointed out by Ole and by Pieter Levels, for example.
Yeah.
But let's start with overregulation. Let's start with taxes.
Yeah.
And then we'll see.
Yeah, that's not the right way to go. But I have it. I even have it when I lived in Portugal for a little bit, and even there, and I know that country is like, it has quite some socialist practices there. But even there, you can feel the entrepreneurial spirit among peers, like in our age bracket within tech, within like service industry, whatever. You can feel the energy even there. So I'm just like, everywhere I go, I just feel like it's just being stifled. And those that do want to achieve something, they either move to Southeast Asia for lower cost of living, or they move to the US where they can actually build a proper career or build a proper business. And I find it worrying, man. And I think if you have something in place that would enable entrepreneurs a little bit more, you won't see the effects right away, but it's something that is more down the line, right?
Yeah, a little bit of self-criticism here is that, and this is talking about me specifically, we are good at listing all the things that are bad. The trick here is, of course, to come with solutions or alternatives that would make things better. But since we also find it important for people to actually realize, hey, we need to be careful here within Europe, because we are sliding down a slippery slope of lack of innovation and disruption and etc. So some awareness is important, but then of course the trick is, okay, how do we change all of that? So Pieter Levels had some suggestions back when he was...
Didn't he talk to Draghi as well?
Yeah, you know what the solution was for Mario Draghi? The one that Mario Draghi said, it's basically just to give even more sovereignty of the nation states away to the EU for even more bureaucracy, more debt.
Yeah.
That was the key point of his solution. So that's what you get with people who are just completely within that bureaucratic mindset. They think that the solution for everything is simply to centralize more power and more wealth and distribute it.
Yeah, but it gave me a good feeling that when I saw that they talked.
At least that he could reach.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. Also, Pieter Levels, he suggested some things like there should be EU.inc business entity form that you could easily.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I noticed it myself, man. Like going from Netherlands to Portugal.
Yeah.
I cannot move my company to elsewhere without paying an exit tax. And I'm like,
right.
Isn't Europe all about like freedom of moving wherever you want?
Yeah, only if the federal EU can get taxes from you, then not anymore. Yeah, no, that's the hypocrisy a little bit of that bureaucracy.
Yeah.
But then again, so Pieter Levels suggested things which I very much appreciate, but they were all still on the supranational level.
I'm not against that way of doing it, but I do think the form that it's being done in currently is just not something that I feel confident about that it will work in the long term. So yeah, if this could be turned around, and that's also like why we started talking about this, right?
Yeah.
Because you see, there are signs currently in the US that government inefficiency and the whole bureaucratic system it looks like they want to at least tweak some things about that. And here in Europe, we've had, I think Macron said some things about it, that if we keep doing it this way, it's going to go wrong. I'm not that well versed with all the political stuff going on in Europe, but I also feel like he played a big part in setting this system up. So what I am most curious about, is there someone within Europe that can actually challenge this system?
Yeah, from the outside.
Yes, it needs to be someone with some weight, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I have. That's what I fear a little bit, that we don't have that here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, someone with the intellectual capacity and sort of the reach and
someone that can challenge the state.
Yeah.
That is
and apply some public pressure, whether it's through media, their own platform, as an entrepreneur, for example, a bit like Elon Musk or Joe Rogan, or a combination of those things. Yeah, that's true. I don't really see yet. I don't yet see this arise in our neck of the woods, but I think it would be good, even just to level the playing field a little bit in terms of the messages that you get.
But that's what I'm all about.
Yeah.
If we can reach, that would be.
That would be
better.
great.
Yeah.
Well, Wes, here's your chance to shine, man. All right.
Man can dream.
America.
I guess we're done, right?
You
still have something to.
I know. I had fun. I had fun again, and we'll just keep doing this. And see you next Saturday.
Right, man.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
You too.